Ja, die Fokusspan is soos altyd op hulle pos. Ek is Lenet Francis Puren, baie welkom. Bietjie later in die program hoor ons van twee Noord-Kaapse entrepreneurs wat toeriste en unieke toerleiers bymekaar uitbring. Ongeveer 190 miljoen vroue van 'n voorplantingsouderdom wêreldwyd ly aan endometriose. Dis volgens die Wêreldgesondheidsorganisasie. Vroue wat aan hierdie toestand ly, ervaar erge menstruasiepyn ook tydens seksuele omgang. Dit kan ook tot onvrugbaarheid lei. Maar dikwels word vroue met endometriose eers in laat stadium gediagnoseer en dan is daar reeds skade. Dit veroorsaak ook groot ontwrigting in die vroue se lewens, soos Fokusregisseur Jolien Reed uitgevind het.
Somebody is inside you, but they are literally stabbing you with the sharpest knife they have constantly, and then there's a heat that comes, that numbs everything, to your knees, to my butt, to my back. I would spend up to 4 days in bed. Funny pain.
Dit voel soos 1000 ninjas in my baarmoeder en elke een het 'n samurai swaard en hulle is elkeen besig om weg te sny binnekant. En in dieselfde tyd voel dit as iemand barbed wire om my baarmoeder getrek het en hom probeer uittrek.
Every month a woman gets her period and the lining of the womb gets shed out on a monthly basis. Now if you could imagine just for a second that some of that lining of the womb goes through the tubes, so backward now, and attaches itself on the ovaries, attaches itself on the colon, attaches itself on the kidney pipes, and in fact it can attach itself anywhere. There's case studies where it's attached itself on the diaphragm and even in the brain. And that is in fact endometriosis.
Baie endometriose leiers voel hulle lewens word deur die siekte oorskadu.
Van daai tyd was my hele lewe oor hierdie siekte. Alles wat ek doen was oor hierdie siekte. En dit het erger en erger. Hoe ouer ek word dit erger. My gesig, my vel van hierdie siekte. My een kant van my fallopian tubes so damaged, nothing can be done to fix it. Dit is so gebreek. It's so rotten. Not only that, my womb was in tatters. So from my fallopian tube to my linings, everything was sort of damaged because I waited so long I didn't actually wait so long. It took so long for me to be diagnosed.
I had stage 4 endo. There are only 4 stages. Stage 4 endo. The endo was over, so it's called the pouch of Douglas, over the pouch of Douglas, rectum, colon, over my left and right ovary. My right ovary was stuck to my pelvic bone.
The body goes and attacks these endometriotic cells and as a result causes inflammation, and it's the inflammation that causes pain. But what actually is allowing it to attach and what is actually causing it to stay alive? It is a hormone called estrogen. Now this estrogen is a hormone that's made by a woman when she ovulates every month. If we can switch off the estrogen or decrease the amount of estrogen, we can actually cut off the food supply to the endometriosis. And as a result, this endometriosis will shrink in size. So if you take out just the uterus, yes, you're going to stop her bleeding because the bleeding is coming from the uterus. But the endometriosis still remains behind if you have not dealt with it. So it's very important for us to take the endometriosis out from outside of the uterus before doing a hysterectomy.
Baie vroue vertel hoe hulle leer om met die pyn te leef omdat daar nie 'n kuur is vir die siekte nie.
There's 2 groups of patients that we're dealing with when we're dealing with endometriosis. We've got the group of patients that don't want to have children right now and purely want their pain managed. First, in that group, we should try to manage that with pain medication. As I've explained, your anti-inflammatories and then your hormonals. If that doesn't work, then the next step is to do surgery. And if we're going to do surgery, we must do surgery to prove that you've got endometriosis, but also to treat it at the same time. Not just to do a diagnostic laparoscopy to have a look. So treatment should occur at the same time as diagnosis. Now the second group of patients are the group of patients that want to have children. Now in that group, we cannot give them medical treatment because as I've described earlier, all the medical treatment will decrease your estrogen level. And all of that will prevent you from ovulating.
Baie vroue vrees dat hierdie siekte hulle onvrugbaar maak.
The first time I went to him, the egg count was very low, but one of the ovaries were high and one of them were low. And at that point, my specialist had not operated on me yet. So he assumed that the endo was growing over the one ovary that had the lower egg count. Anyway, after surgery, he did advise that I freeze my eggs. And I went to him in Feb, and my egg count it's relatively lower than someone of my age, which is still alarming, but he does assure you that there's hope.
If endometriosis is affecting the ovaries and they are damaging the ovaries, there are certain guidelines that need to be taken into account and certain technical skills that need to be taken into account when dealing with this woman. Because there's a fine line between going to operate or going for fertility treatment before operating. Because a number of women might have a decreased ovarian reserve, and if you go and operate, you might go and decrease the ovarian reserve even further, and therefore decrease their chance of conceiving even further.
Rochelle Halsinge, 'n endometriose aktivis en 'n ma van 2, vertel dat sy telke maal operasies ondergaan het, maar kon nie langer die siekte onderdruk nie.
Sê dit is nie 'n kuur nie, maar sover is dit die langste in 23 jaar wat ek nie 'n pynpil hoef te gedrink het nie.
Ek is vrot binne. Ek's vrot. Tot voor ek vir Dr. De Bruin gevind het. Ek's vrot. Mense verstaan hoeveel pille jy vat nie. Hulle kan nie hoeveel pille ek werk met. I'm so embarrassed. You become a drug addict. People make it feel as if it's your fault. And it's easy for you to say it's my fault. Because at 25, I was already working. I'm employed. I'm looking after my family. I can have a kid. Why am I not having a kid? At 27, at 29, at 31, at 34. I'm turning 35 this year. And I'm still asked that question.
Baie vroue sukkel om hul endometriose behandeling as kronies te registreer.
We really don't understand. Endometriosis is a chronic disease, pretty much like hypertension or diabetes is, and they will pay for that sort of treatment. So they should, by definition, pay for the medical treatment of endometriosis. Often the medical aids might give an answer that the treatment we are trying to put a woman on is for fertility or it's a hormonal treatment and they don't pay for that. But that, truly speaking, is not the case.
Die emosionele skade is groot.
I am not my situation. I am not what others say. I have learned to listen to my body. When it says something is wrong, I listen. Dis die enigste liggaam wat ek het. I cannot change my body. When it tells me something is wrong, something is wrong.
Net hierna hoor ons by 'n arbeidskenner hoe endometriose in die werkplek gehanteer kan word. Moenie weggaan nie. Ons is nou terug. Welkom terug. Baie endometriose leiers se siekverlof by die werk word sommer gou uitgeput. Dis omdat sommige soms dae lank en in ernstige gevalle weke lank nie kan werk nie. Van die leiers is ook al medies ongeskik verklaar. Fokus regisseur Julien Reed het met arbeidskenner Lynn King gesels.
An endometriosis patient can be in pain for up to 3 weeks, and only after the 3rd week, one of the case studies was explaining, and she said, then I have 1 week of rest. So we just wanted to find out, is there any obligation for an employee to disclose their medical status?
In terms of the law, Yuli, there is actually no obligation, and this is the basic conditions of employment. There is no obligation on the employee to disclose their status, their medical condition, let me put it that way. With endometriosis sufferers, as with any other medical condition, unless it is the inherent requirements of a job that such disclosure should be made to the employer.
Example, when your sick leave has been depleted, what type of recourse is there available to an employee?
The Basic Conditions of Employment Act, provides for an employee to get 36 sick leave days within a 36-month cycle. That's the cycle. Okay, the cycle commences immediately. You commence duties, that's when the cycle starts. So the challenge there comes in sometimes with endo sufferers is that for the first 6 months of your employment, you are only permitted to take one sick leave day for every 26 days worked. So you can just imagine every 26 days on average, it must probably be for every month, only 1 day. And how long is, you're saying like we're talking the before, we're talking the during, we're talking the after. Sometimes it could last for 3 weeks where they're actually unable to perform their duties. So is that 1 day sufficient? It really becomes a challenge for those that are working longer, not new appointees. Endometriosis warriors are bound to exhaust their sick leave. Maybe put it that way. They're bound to exhaust their sick leave, also dependent on the severity of their condition. And once that has been exhausted, the employer has to follow the route of incapacity. So no matter, yes, employees are bound to feel bad as well, because I feel bad, I'm more off than I'm on. You know, I don't even know what to say anymore, because you're not lying, it is your reality, you know. So then comes the issue of incapacity. That procedure needs to be embarked upon. An investigation needs to be conducted. So doctors, the employee's doctor would obviously be giving medical reports and so forth, and that without disclosing, once again, without disclosing what the actual condition is, but explaining perhaps the severity of it and how it affects the employee's work. In terms of Schedule 8 of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, the employer has an obligation to actually customize, or could I say, amend the conditions, either their duties or the conditions to which the employee is working in, so that it can fit this employee. So there's all those sorts of things where we're talking incapacity related to ill health. There has to be other forms and alternatives that have to be looked at. So one of those would be remote working, for instance. You know, that is also now, you know, dealing with the pandemic, and that is the sort of alternative routes that can be looked at on how to accommodate, or best to accommodate, endo warriors.
So I think now with COVID, we've basically it's opened a new world in terms of remote working. Is this perhaps something that companies should be looking at? You know, there's different benefits attached to it.
There should be alternative methods, any other alternative short of dismissal. So before, basically, you dismiss somebody on the basis of ill incapacity, that they cannot perform, we cannot have them here, they're more off than on. You know, there has to be alternative ways looked at, and remote working should be one of them. I absolutely agree with that. You know, we're still in a pandemic, and that looking at possible third wave and that. So we don't know for how long this is going to carry on, but why not use that to our advantage? You know, if you need to consider people that need to be working from home, you know, prioritize. Perhaps companies need to look at their HR policies where they prioritize people such as what you mentioned, diabetic sufferers, endo warriors, and so forth. You know what I'm saying? Those people need to be prioritized because it becomes so difficult for them to be there for their presence to be on duty. Actually, it really becomes a challenge. So I really think it's something that I can say possibly it's a win for endo warriors in that respect, that now the options have become more broader because this is our new normal, I guess, if we could put it that way.
Lekker is ingeskakel, net hierna gesels ons met twee toerisme-entrepreneurs wat toeriste en unieke toergidse bymekaar uitbring. Sien jou na die breek. Twee Noord-Kaapse entrepreneurs in die toerismebedryf het met 'n nuwe webwerf vorendag gekom wat toeriste help om by unieke toergidse uit te kom. Die webwerf SHAP kan landwyd deur toeriste gebruik word. Regisseur Keith Suister het die ontwikkelaars van die webwerf besoek.
Die woordjie SHAP is 'n bekende woord oral by volstasies, hotelle, waar jy ook al kom in Suid-Afrika. Maar hoe kan die woordjie SHAP vir jou as 'n toerist en 'n toergids, hoe kan julle daaruit voordeel trek? Kom ons gaan vind uit.
Ek en my besigheidsvriend Malcolm, ons het baie jare in die gasvryheidsbedryf en ek het 'n gastehuis, hy het 'n hotel, ons doen toere, soos so 10 jaar terug al begin toere doen en besluit later ons moet nou registreer as toergidse. En in hierdie selfde asem wat ons registreer as toergidse, het ons baie opgewonde toe ons nou uiteindelik die kwalifikasie het en sê okay, nou kan ons die toere om na Makwaland te uplift en te sê, hier's iets meer as net jou normale toerisme, né? En ons kry toe hierdie badges en ons sê, ja, ons is nou geregistreer as gidse en dit was vir ons excitement en toe besluit ons, maar nou moet ons exposure kry, ons moet nou adverteer, ons moet nou sê, waar gaan ons 'n platform kry wat sê wie ons is? En met hierdie gedagte het ons toe betrokke geraak by, hoe bring ons 'n gids en 'n unieke ondervinding of 'n unieke toer wat jy kan doen uit by die toerist wat dit wil ondervind. Wat een van ons grootste dinge was, toe ons nou hierdie excitement gevoel het rondom, ons is nou 'n gids, en maar ook aan die ander kant, ons is ook toeriste wat baie travel, het ons besef, as 'n gids is daar nie regtig 'n groot verskeidenheid van platforms waarop jy kan registreer nie. En die blootstelling wat jy nodig het as 'n gids om te sê, jy is in verskillende areas, provinsies, jy het verskillende unieke produk wat jy lewer, waar adverteer jy dit? Hoe adverteer jy dit, vir wie gee jy dit? En dit was een van die grootste dinge wat ons gepla het, dat ons moes uitkom by die antwoord as 'n gids, hoe kom ons daar buitekant? Hoe sê ons vir jou, daar is 'n geleentheid om hierdie produk te experience wat ek het, of wat ek uitgedink het, of wat ek create het oor jare se ondervinding om dit te doen. As 'n toerist het ons besef, ons gaan reg oor die land, ons gaan internasionaal, en ons soek na ietsie wat ons besig hou, of ons families besig hou, of jy het net gou 'n paar minute en jy wil nog hierdie dorp ondervind, en wat is mooi daarin, en ons kon nie regtig iets kry in Suid-Afrika wat vir ons aanvulling gee tot daai unieke experience. Ek is nou gou vinnig in hierdie klein dorpie of in die stad, en ek moet daai experience hê, of ek wil iets doen, maar daar was niks wat dit vir my gestaaf het nie.
Nou, hoe gaan SHAP dan nou eintlik werk, en wie gaan baat by dit, en hoe gaan hulle daarbey baat?
Wat is meer uniquely South African as die woord SHAP? Jy weet, as jy by 'n petroljoggie stop, en jy sê, maak af vir my forma, en sê die ou vir jou SHAP, en jy kan wees in KwaZulu-Natal, jy kan wees in die Noord-Kaap, jy kan wees in die Kaap, maak die saak hier, it crosses all cultural boundaries. Wat ons gesoek het is 'n platform wat vir ons almal, wat vir die gids mos nou by die traveler uitbring. Daai is vir ons die belangrikste. En dit moet 'n platform wees wat maklik toeganklik is, op jou selfoon en op jou laptop of op jou rekenaar, kan jy dit kry, en jy kan ook registreer as gids op jou laptop of op jou selfoon. Al wat jy nodig het is internet. En dan, dis ook belangrik dat dit 'n bekostigbare en betroubare platform is. Daai is vir ons een van die goeders wat baie uitstaan. En jy weet, dit gaan ook vir ons oor responsible tourism, responsible, sustainable en veral community-based tourism. om daai mense te help en exposure te gee aan hulle, sodat elke ou, as jy in 'n klein dorpie kom, as jy in Springbok inry, dan moet jy net op SAP gaan, en jy moet weet, hier's 5 verskillende toere wat aangebied word. Nou wat jy doen, jy gaan op SAP, as jy in Springbok inry, maak jou selfoon oop, jy kyk as ons het 6 kategorieë. So jy kan besluit, adventure, cultural, family, history, foodie en nature. So jy tik dan daarin, wat spesifiek jy soek, en jy kan ook gaan kyk, wat is in jou area. So as jy in Springbok inry, gaan dit dadelik vir jou sê, wat se cool experiences of unique experiences in jou dorp is, of wat 'n dorpie ook al is, reg oor Suid-Afrika. Al 9 provinsies, en veral die klein dorpies. Jy weet, ons wil graag die klein dorpies support, en die klein gids wat nie die geld het om sy eie company te begin nie. Al wat hy nodig het is 'n CATSITA registered guide badge, soos hierdie ene, en dan kan jy begin. Internet, obviously internet reception, selfoon en laptop.
So jy moet na ons webadres toe gaan om daar 'n webadres te sien en so in verbintenis en kontak te kom. Veral as jy ook op 'n klein dorpie is en jy voel dit in jou gees, jy is reg om mense rond te lei en jou dorp aan hulle bekend te stel. Ongelukkig is dit al vir vanaand. Onthou, Fokus word elke donderdagoggend om 10:30 op SABC 2 herhaal en ons is ook steeds beskikbaar op YouTube. Indien jy met ons kontak wil maak, besoek ons Facebookblad of stuur vir ons e-pos. Ons lees graag jou kommentaar, jou tweets en jou voorstelle. Stuur dit net aan fokus@sabc.co.za. Bly op hoogte van al ons stories op ons Fokusblad op Facebook by Fokus SABC en dan volg jy ons ook op Twitter by Fokus ZA. Aan al ons verpleegsters, afgetrede en tans in diens, baie dankie vir julle onbaatsuchtige diens op hierdie internasionale verpleegstersdag. Tot volgende Woensdag aan dan. Totsiens.